I hereby call this meeting to order, and we'll, let me introduce a few guests. Gary, you're going to always be a guest when you show up, a special guest. Gary Ridley, former director, is here. Thanks for coming. John Cox with the Trust. Thanks, John. Grayson Arties with the, he's the director of the Aeronautics. On the front row. And Sandra Shelton from the Aeronautics. Glad to have you with us today. Okay. Would you have a roll call, please?
Mr. Coburn.
Here.
Mr. Grimsley.
Here.
Mr. Freimiller.
Here.
Mr. Shannon.
Present.
Mr. McCown.
Present.
Mr. Dyson. Mr. Alexander.
Here.
Mr. LaForge.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, Chairman Gatz has a special presentation.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, at the end of last week, we marked Russell Hewlin's retirement, our Deputy Director. And we want to acknowledge his service to the state of Oklahoma and to the Department of Transportation with a special recognition brick. This brick came from Route 66 in Arcadia, part of the original Route 66 highway, and we hand these out to folks that have had dedicated and meritorious service to the department. We'll tell you that receiving a brick from the Department of Transportation is the equivalent of having your number retired. And again, Russell has spent 35 years in state government, 6 of those with the department. And if I might, I would read what's inscribed here on the brick. The Department of Transportation recognizes Russell Hewlin, Deputy Director, Chief Financial Officer, for his 35 years of service to the state, 6 of those years at ODOT. His knowledge and business acumen have been invaluable, along with his genuine interest in progress. He contributed greatly to the department's image by advancing many initiatives, including the rehabilitation of our website, among others. Not to mention, he represented Sooners proudly on senior staff, Boomer Sooner. That was very difficult for me.
We have great representation for which you hear.
Yes, we do. The department is proud to present him with this commemorative brick from historic Route 66 in Arcadia in honor of his retirement. And again, the one thing I'll speak to, and I knew Russell a little bit. He formerly worked as the deputy at the Tax Commission. So I was acquainted with him, but I got really well acquainted with him whenever he came to work for the department 6 years ago. And I want to tell you that he is a man of impeccable character. He made an immediate impact on the Department of Transportation and brought that knowledge of government operation at a time when we desperately needed it. So for that, we thank Russell, and I'd certainly invite him to the podium. Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I would just like to take this opportunity to just acknowledge and thank the many dedicated ODOT employees, the men and women here at ODOT. They accomplish so much every day, and they improve the quality of life in Oklahoma, and you know, they deserve so much credit. And I look forward to the continuing progress that this commission, the department, will bring. I also want to acknowledge the senior staff. Thank you for, your guidance and direction and the professionalism which you carry yourselves. You represent the department in the highest honor. And you've done so much for me and mentored me these few years, and I really appreciate you. And also, I want to thank Director Gatz and Director Patterson for giving me this opportunity to be a part of the ODOT family. it is very special and is an honor. And I just hope that I've made some positive difference in this great department. But I want to thank everyone, and thank you, commissioners, for serving the public the way you do as well. Thank you.
We have an announcement from the Rail Program Division Manager, Mrs. Sullivan. I'm sorry. I'm trying to hurry ahead of a picture here.
Shuffle around. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Nice to have you here today. I am pleased to announce the selection of Mr. Jared Schwennison as the Rail Programs Division Manager. Jared, please stand. All right. Jared has been with the department since 2009. He has served in the Bridge Division, Traffic Division, Maintenance and ITS and Fiber Optics, and Environmental Programs Division. Most recently, he has actually assisted me in some special initiatives that were undertaken by the Director of Capital Programs. He has a very diverse background and experience with pretty much all the way across ODOT divisions, and I know he will bring those connections and his skills to serve the rail division very, very well. He lives with his wife Brittany and their son in Oklahoma City, and he, outside the office, supports his alma mater, Boomer Sooner. Yeah, he has and I forgot to mention, Jared has as BS and Masters of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Oklahoma. All right, again, help me welcome and congratulate Jared. And I have one more announcement. I am really pleased to announce the appointment of Mr. Rick Johnson as ODOT's Director of Capital Programs. Rick, please stand. Rick Johnson has had a career with the ODOT, with ODOT since 1997. He started in roadway design. He moved to special projects in roadway design, which was responsible at the time for coordinating with local governments to do projects like enhancements and the transportation alternative programs like that. Rick also became the Division 8 project manager in 2010 and oversaw some of the most complex projects there in Division 8, getting that project delivery for the field division. In 2014, Rick became the, I skipped one. In 2014, Mr. Johnson established the Facilities Management Division and was its first division manager. And then in 2016, he was promoted to lead the Project Management Division for the entire state, and there was responsible for overseeing the delivery of our 8-year work plan. During his tenure with ODOT, he's really accomplished a lot and been great partners with all the field divisions. Rick earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and his Master's degree in Business Management from Southern Nazarene University. He and his wife, Cindy, have 3 sons, and they live in Yukon. But he did tell me that his money goes to OU, so there's a theme emerging. Again, thank you, and help me congratulate Rick Johnson.
At this time, I'm going to ask for someone to move for approval of the minutes of the June 2019 meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Yeah. Mine is, I'm learning, I punched the wrong button, and mine is a yes vote, if you'll record it that way. Oh, goodness. Then there's items 93, 94, 95, 96, and 97 on the consent docket. I need a motion for those, or unless there's some comments on them?
Move for approval of the consent docket. Second.
All in favor? Will you vote? We're not having anything up here to vote on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Passed unanimous. At this time, we'll have a report by Mr. Hatt on the Federal Railroad Crossing Safety Funds, item number 130. I do. Oh, that was, I'm sorry. All these are, okay, well, it didn't get on my number. Thank you. That was confusing the way I looked at it. Okay. Item number 98, engineering contract.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Item 98 are my engineering contracts. I only have one this month. This is our statewide, all districts, on-demand overload permit studies contract. We've selected Grossman and Keith Engineering Company. The amount, total not to exceed amount is $400,000, and I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor? It looks like we can vote. I'm not being able to vote on mine correct. I'm punching button 1 and not, and so is it button 2? I punched that a while ago, got a no out of it, so sorry about that.
Okay. All right. In
Got it.
item 99 are my engineering contract supplements. First one is in Oklahoma County in District 4. We previously authorized Olson Associates to do the engineering and final plans for I-35 northbound and southbound bridges over 63rd Street, and also the I-40 and I-35 northbound and southbound over Deep Fork Creek and the service road. The supplement not to exceed amount is $69,214. Both projects were in the 8-year construction work plan, and the first one has been let in federal fiscal year 2018, and the second one, of which this supplement is for, is to be let in federal fiscal year 2022. The second one is Delaware County, Commission District 8. We previously authorized Garver to do the engineering and final design plans for US 59 and Spavino Creek. The supplement not to exceed amount is $82,200. This project is in the 8-year construction work plan scheduled federal fiscal year 2020, and approval is recommended. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Motion for approval. Second. All in favor? My yes light's lit up.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item number 100.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good morning. I'd like to present item 100, parts A through V. These are change orders on projects which have a cumulative total of change orders of $75,000 or less. This item is presented for your information only, and no action is necessary, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Item number 101.
All right, moving on to 101, parts A through DD. These are the change orders on projects which have a cumulative total of change orders greater than $75,000. Your approval is recommended, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
We review. Second? Second. All in favor? Was unanimous.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Agenda item 102 is for the final September, tentative October, tentative November bid openings, and the department recommends approval of this item.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Item 103.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Item 103 is our recommendations from the June 20th bid opening. It is recommended that the following items from that bid opening referred to by call order be awarded. That's call order 700, 705, 710, 715, 725, 730, 735, 745, 750, 755, 760, 763, 765, 767, 775, 778, 790, 795, 797, 800, 805, 808, 815, 817, 820, 825, 830, 835, 840, 845, 850, 857, 860, and 870. And just for clarification, if your report shows a 780 on there, that's a typo. That project did not have a bid on it, so there's no action needed on that particular call order. It is recommended that the following items from that bid opening referred to by call order be rejected. That's call order 770, 785, and 875. This concludes the recommendations for award, and your approval is requested.
Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, for my education, since we have so few, would you briefly touch on why those 3 bids were rejected?
Yes, sir. On those particular items, yeah, all 3 of them, we had really high bids on particularly asphalt, much higher than we saw across the entire letting. So for those reasons, we decided to reject those projects.
In 875, the bid came in like at half the engineer's estimate.
Right, on that particular one, the low bidder made an error in their bid, and made one of the items way below what they could afford to do it. Going to the next bidder would not have been a good idea.
It was
So-
another 30% above
Yes,
the
sir.
engineer's estimate.
So we obviously go back out and rebid that and probably get a better price.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear your report on emergencies.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I had a couple of informational items for your consideration. We had 2 emergency declarations that have occurred. The first is in Canadian County on State Highway 4. ODOT Field Division 4 personnel closed State Highway 4 north of State Highway 66 in Canadian County on Thursday, June the 6th, due to flooding caused by heavy rain at that location. The heavy rainfall caused erosion of the highway slopes that undermined the roadbed, thereby destroying the highway surface and rendering the highway unsafe for travel. On June the 6th, 2019, in consultation with the ODOT Chief Engineer, I declared an emergency to repair the damaged highway in accordance with Title 61 Oklahoma Statutes, Section 130, and authority provided by the Oklahoma Administrative Code Rule 731-5-1. Under the authority of my declaration of emergency, the department executed an emergency contract to effect the required repairs necessary to reopen the highway for the traveling public. The contract to make repairs to the damaged structure was executed with Allen Contracting for an amount of $156,235, with the work to begin June the 6th of 2019. The emergency project was completed on June the 12th of 2019. No commission action is required on this item. Part B is a declaration of an emergency in Sequoyah County on Highway 64. Oklahoma Division 1 personnel discovered scour damage on 2 bridges in Sequoyah County on US 64. The first bridge is NBI number 19079 US 64 Overflow Bridge located at 2.2 miles east of the US 64 junction with I-40 that has a length of 200 feet with 5 40-foot pre-stressed spans. Scouring has exposed the abutment piling, resulting in a large scour holes at the end of the bridge. The severe scour necessitated the closing of the bridge by Division 1 forces. The scour damage must be repaired by installing new fill using controlled low-strength material and replacing the approach pavement and the existing guardrail. The second overflow bridge is NBI number 19104 US 64 Overflow Bridge located 3.1 miles east of the US 64 junction with I-40. It has a length of 440 feet with 11 40-foot spans. The bridge is open to traffic, but significant repairs are required due to scour damage. Repairs will consist of placing controlled low-strength material at the abutment and placing fill in the scour holes around the bridge supports. On June 17th of 2019, I issued a declaration of emergency for repair of these bridges at an estimated cost of $400,000. The contractor that's helping us with that emergency project is Bridgeco, and I would certainly, on behalf of the department, thank their responsiveness along with Allen Contracting. And again, the Highway 64 project is ongoing. They're still working on it. If everything goes as planned, we will do our best to have that facility back to at least two-way traffic by the end of the week. And again, those repairs are ongoing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have about those emergency declarations.
Are there any questions? Move on.
Thank you. From the director's report, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Couple of things that I think warrant specific attention have occurred this month. The first, we received the final tally of the structurally deficient bridge numbers across the nation from the Federal Highway Administration. And I want to give you a little bit of an update. And I'd call your attention first to an area that results in some confusion. There is a national bridge inventory system that is inclusive of all bridge structures regardless of jurisdictional authority. So that means that inventory includes city street bridges, county road bridges, and highway bridges that would be the interstate system, the U.S. numbered route system, and the state highway numbered route system. So that inventory includes all of those structures. The department only has jurisdictional authority over the interstate bridges, the U.S. numbered route bridges, and the state highway bridges. So that's what we include in our consideration of structurally deficient bridges. Occasionally, you will see a report that comes out from the Federal Highway Administration that may not align with where we think we're ranked with structurally deficient bridges nationally for on-highway bridges. And again, typically those reports are inclusive of consideration of all of the bridges that are included in that inventory system. So just to clarify that, when you hear us talk about structurally deficient bridge numbers, we're only talking about the highway bridges that we have responsibility for. We've been working with a focus on structurally deficient bridges now for as long as I can remember. It really took effect, and we really began to make some progress back in about 2006, and that's attributed to the legislature providing some additional resources for the department to be able to really make improvements that we desperately needed. This most recent year, At the end of December of 2018, we reported that we had 131 structurally deficient bridges of the 6,800 that we're responsible for. That puts us just below 2%. We're still on track to achieve our 1% goal here over the course of the next year or two, but we didn't achieve as high a ranking nationally as I thought we might this year. So again, to give you a little bit of perspective, based on the 2018 numbers, we were ranked 17th in the country. Again, for on-highway bridges, we've moved up to number 13 this year. And so we've got additional progress to make to crack that top 10, but we're laser focused on that, and we'll continue our work to get there. And again, I can't emphasize enough that the men and women of the Department of Transportation and our contracting communities and our consulting engineering partners have really, really worked hard to get us where we are today. To come from almost 1,200 structurally deficient bridges back in 2004 to where we're at now with 131 is no small accomplishment. Many of those bridges were replaced or repaired in times of extreme budgetary challenges. So again, with the support of the commission, we've been able to continue our focus. A lot of these bridges are touched in our 8-year construction work plan, and that has been a critical tool in helping us to manage the projects necessary to deliver these improvements. It gives us that long-term vision that helps keep us on track and on focus. So again, I would have liked nothing better than to have broken the top 10 in the country this year, but I can assure you that we'll continue our focus and look forward to making that happen potentially when we report the 2019 numbers. So be happy to answer any questions about the bridge item if there are any.
Chairman, I'd love to make a comment. I think this is very remarkable, sustained focus over many years. So to me, I'm very impressed with the progress that ODOT and our legislature and others have made on this. This is significant, I believe.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Are there any other comments?
I'm sorry. I've been on the commission about 8.5 years, and where do you think we were then? I mean, I know we've made substantial, but I mean, you know, where we're 13th now, or where, I think we were in the 40s then, or low 40s maybe.
It's
been remarkable.
I could go back and get you the exact number, but I remember distinctly, Commissioner, about the time that you came onto the commission, that we had almost 700 structurally deficient bridges that we had identified. So over your tenure alone, we've made that much progress.
I would just like to thank the staff and everybody, because I think it's been a remarkable job, and budgetary people and everybody else for putting the money over, you know, where we could use it for that. I know in the past we've talked about at some point we'll have more money for asphalt when we get these bridges fixed, and looking forward to that too. But the bridges are a really important item, you know, and it just seems like the trucking loads are getting heavier all the time that I see and stuff. And I'm not talking about your type of trucking. But anyway, we're just tickled to death on the job, or I am, that we've been able to focus on these bridges so much over the years, and I think everybody's done a wonderful job.
And I can't emphasize enough to your point, Commissioner, we have to continue to stay focused on our bridge infrastructure. We just do, because we've got almost 1,000 bridges out there on the highway system right now that are almost 80 years old. So again, if you think about that in the context of an 80-year-old bridge and the type of traffic that it was designed to serve versus what we're serving today, we cannot rest. We have to not only achieve our 1% goal, but we've got to continue to make the investments that are necessary to make sure we sustain it for the future. So again, I appreciate the Commission's support very much, and look forward to continuing to lower those numbers.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, if I might, I'd talk about one more item of significance.
Yes.
House Bill 1365, which was passed by the legislature this last legislative session, is going to bring into effect a new Office of Mobility and Public Transit here at the Department of Transportation. That office will replace our former Transit Programs Division and make some significant changes to how the state approaches public transportation with the newly added program, Section 5310. That will be consolidated to the Department of Transportation from the Department of Human Services. The 5310 program is focused on providing transit services to the elderly and disabled. So the department in that Office of Mobility will take on some new charge. The public in Oklahoma has probably never been more focused on transit. To provide you with a brief overview of the state's role in transit, we have dedicated revenues both at the state and the federal level that are available for transit services in both the urban areas and the rural areas of Oklahoma. And the department is the state's designee to administer those funds for our rural transit operators. The urban transit operators, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Lawton, are direct recipients of those federal transit funds, but we administer and work closely with our rural transit providers to make sure that the transit funds are being administered. And those entities are usually created by cities or counties, or they could be nonprofits, and they really provide a local level of service to the small communities across the state. And again, we are consolidating the 5310 program into that Office of Mobility, and we have been working very closely with Secretary Steve Buck and the new DHS Director Justin Brown, and we're going to continue working closely with them to make sure that the transition of the 5310 monies to the department goes as smooth as it possibly can. So we'll continue those efforts. We have reached out to the recipients of those $5310 to make sure that they know about this transition and make sure that they know that we're going to continue to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible on the folks that are receiving those monies. To make this effort a success, the department will continue our work with our transit associations and the Oklahoma Transit Association and the other professionals to enhance our communication efforts and the collaboration and bring all stakeholders to the table on our shared goal of providing a safe, economical, and effective transportation system here in Oklahoma. We are part of bringing this new office into being, and part of our efforts to make sure that we fulfill the requirements of House Bill 1365, and that's really to elevate the status of transit in Oklahoma. We're assigning a transportation planner with transit experience to assist the new office in the creation of the state's first transit policy plan, as well as engaging the expertise of a private sector consultant to help us fully implement the changes. Finally, I've asked that an independent performance audit be conducted by the state auditor and inspector's office, and we want to really take a hard look at our transit program, make sure we understand what opportunities there are to improve the operations of that division under House Bill 1365. We're going to continue to stay focused on it. We want the process of developing and creating this new office, making sure that it is properly resourced and properly structured to provide the level of service that's expected of us by our transit provider partners to go as well as it possibly can. So again, we're going to engage all those stakeholders in helping us create something that will be beneficial for the future. So again, I wanted to give the commission a little bit of a report and an understanding on that aspect because that's a big deal for Oklahoma. And the department is taking it very, very seriously. And we're going to stand this program up under the new law and make it everything that it needs to be. So be happy to answer any questions that there may be about that.
Mr. Secretary, can you tell me who the politicians were behind 1365? In other words, who was behind that?
Primarily, it was Representative Carol Bush from the Tulsa area. Representative Avery Fricks has had a unique interest in it. He's the chairman of our Transportation Committee on the House side. And Senator Rob Standridge from Norman also was a carrier of the bill. And again, I want to emphasize that House Bill 1365 received broad support from the legislature as it made its way through. And again, Governor Stitt signed it into law, and the department is going to get about the business of implementing this. And again, this is an activity that we want to make sure we get right. It's not a flip of the switch type of a transition. We're going to have to work through it. We've got about a year to put a good, solid transit plan in place that we're going to work very closely with the transit providers around the state to create a plan that will carry Oklahoma forward.
Thank you.
I have a question. I read an article this week with 30 states now making marijuana legal. The trucking industry the article said is going to be going to driverless trucks in a real short period because they can't get truckers. You have to be able to pass marijuana test to get a CDL. And I think that's going to be a big change in Oklahoma. And I don't have any answers for it. I just think it's an interesting thing that we're looking at out on the highway.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I would tell you that probably the most extreme challenge as transportation professionals that we are going to face over the next 10 years, 10 to 20 years, depending on what study that you pay attention to, will be the introduction of autonomous vehicles into our fleet. So we're undoubtedly going to see both vehicles that are heavily driver assisted, so that if they've got auto braking, auto speed control, lane departure, and things like that, but they still have a driver in them. But we're also going to experience at some point fully autonomous vehicles. And the challenge that we are going to have is, number one, they still need quality infrastructure to be able to travel. And number two, we're going to see those vehicles intermingled with vehicles that don't have driver assist technology, that are or may have some level, but we're going to have to manage all of those different facets on our transportation system at the same time for the foreseeable future. So again, that's going to be a challenge. The good news is that as those technologies are implemented, our best hope is that we see accident numbers begin to come down over time, and we see less and less conflicts out there on the highways. A driverless truck, there was a piece of legislation passed this last legislative session that will facilitate truck platooning. That's not driverless, but it allows trucks to travel much closer together than they previously could and be linked through Bluetooth configuration or wireless configuration. That yields fuel efficiencies and even a safer operating environment for those drivers. But that's as close to driverless as we've got right now. The lack of CDL drivers is going to be an extreme challenge going forward. And again, I think we certainly stand to see an increase in efforts to bring about driverless type technologies.
I'm sure Commissioner Freimiller would have a lot to say about this too. We don't see driverless trucks of a 18-wheel combination vehicle for a long time. We don't. Taxis, route trucks that are maybe don't leave the metropolitan area or something like that. And I didn't think the public would stand for driverless 18-wheel trucks going 65 miles an hour, 80,000 pounds. Florida last week passed legislation that allowed fully autonomous vehicles, trucks. I was stunned. I'm not 25 anymore, but the technology to me has a long way to go. I mean, our truck drivers put fuel in the truck, secure freight to it, cover it, deal with detours and all of these things. So it'll be interesting to watch the technology, but I don't think it's going to affect 18-wheelers soon. And we are struggling for truck drivers. We have been for 20 years. And we're raising their pay. That's about the one thing we can do, so.
As someone who's been excited about autonomous vehicles for a big part of my career, I'm really because I think that we're on the cusp of some pretty revolutionary trends, especially in urban mobility. A single trip it'd be more and more common that you change modes of transportation on a single trip. It'll be, especially the bigger areas, it'll be more and more common. I come mainly from the aviation industry, where we're seeing electric propulsion and urban air mobility concepts emerge. So I think the timing is really, really good, and I think it's going to be very beneficial to our state because of the timing, but to have that focused vision moving forward. And as you hit it, infrastructure is so critical to all of these technologies to fully exploit the benefits. We've got to have a holistic infrastructure plan and vision to really embrace it. So the timing is great, and I think the legislature should be commended on that, and ODOT for implementing this quickly. So this is exciting to me.
Thank you. And again, we'll, over time, as the autonomous effort continues to develop, the department will definitely be attentive to what's happening, and we'll make whatever adjustments that are going to need to be made. But again, autonomous vehicles, the electrification of vehicles are going to bring their own set of challenges that we're going to have to manage to, so.
I guess I have a point or a question. In our subcommittee meeting earlier today, you also talked about, even with the vehicles that we have out on the road today, that can sense we need to improve our striping a bunch. Just, it's a big cost to us, I know, to do that, but I guess that's what they follow and look at as they go down the road to keep you in lanes and warn you and stuff.
There are some lane departure technologies that do focus on the traffic stripe. As the global positioning technologies become more and more accurate, I think there will be less reliance on the traffic stripe. Commissioner, I'll tell you that I want bright traffic stripe out there on our highways, not for lane departure for vehicles that have got that, but for everybody else. Because, you know, again, it's so important that we keep our pavement markings up to date and as good as we can keep them, because that's, again, very, very important to the traveling public overall.
I didn't mean to defer our meeting, but if, do you have any other
No,
comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any other
Any
questions.
other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. If, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Well, second? All in favor? Got them all, okay. We're adjourned.